Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And we do have people on. I'm pleased to say from all over the world today. We have more than 100 people joining us so far and still coming in, it looks like. I like to start the I'm for Fun podcast with some hot topics, and there certainly are some hot topics this week, for better or for worse. Of course, the hottest topic has been the insurrection at our Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Um, uh, an atrocity, as we know. No matter what your politics are, and I like to think that we can all work together. But I think it's important to remember. I always remember what Voltaire said from school, and he said, "Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities." And again, no matter what your politics are, we have to keep that in mind. What we went through this week is an embarrassment to the United States and an embarrassment to the world. We're going to move forward. Our incoming president, Biden, the 46th president of the United States, will be inaugurated on January 20th, a week from today. So that should hopefully improve things, not from a political standpoint, so to speak, it just improve things. It's a change. Uh, Big news this morning is that underway in Washington is the second impeachment of our president, Donald Trump, and we'll see what the outcome of that will be. Um, it's going to be a crazy week, as I said. So we hopefully it'll be a safe week here in the United States, and that we can live up to our goals and ambitions like we have for 246 years. Um, Vaccine update. Here in the US, at this point in time, we're only about 9 to 10 million people who have been vaccinated out of the 22 million doses that were distributed so far in the United States. So we're a little bit behind on schedules, and we're doing everything we're being told by the government to increase and accelerate that program. One of the major things that's happened, and our industry has contributed to this, I'm happy to say, is that the Disneyland Resort is going to serve as a mass vaccination site for Orange County, California. I think it's a great idea. They've been closed, as you know, for 10 months now with COVID-19. And what they've done is they're going to be one of the first 5 super pods, points of dispensary, or for mass vaccination. So kudos to Disney once again for stepping up and helping like they have. A little more information on Disney. They said that later this year, coming this year, they're going to be eliminating a couple of the programs that we've seen for years at their parks. They are going to eliminate a long-standing Magical Express, which is a free shuttle, as we know, bus that brought guests staying at Walt Disney World hotels to and from the airport. And the other perk that's going to be suspended is the extra Magic Hours program. It's a program that allows hotel guests to come in early and stay later. So 2 things that are happening there at Disney, and they've said that they may elect to reinstitute the travel program to the parks, but probably not the after hours. Meanwhile, over in Europe, things are pretty much closed for the winter. Europe, as we know, is in its off season, but a lot of the attractions that were open have been locked down, and the Dutch parks and attractions are locked down. Disney Paris closed, and it will remain closed. They've announced until February 12th at this point. Our friends over at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Amanda Thompson and her wonderful team, they're scheduled to open February 6th, but it's, of course, depending on the UK lockdown and what happens there. Our friends at Europa Park, they have a tentative late opening in March, and again, dependent on what happens. Fantasyland, same thing, opening in late March. But of course, it all depends on the restrictions that the governments in the different countries impose. One late news this last week is that IAAPA has canceled the EMEA summit, which was going to be held at Europa Park. And a lot of people were looking forward to that, to get back together, to conduct business and see our friends. And it just looks like that isn't going to happen. So we'll be addressing more hot topics in the next 2 weeks. I would just say that probably the world has never needed our industry more than they do right now. We bring fun and laughter into people's lives, and boy, oh boy, everybody needs that right now. With that said, and hot topics gone, I want to introduce my first guest, or my only guest today, not my first guest, who's just an amazing person. Everybody in the industry globally knows our guest, and it's Pamela Landwirth. Pamela is president and CEO of Give Kids the World Village. She just is an amazing person. She inspires people, whoever she meets and wherever she goes. She has a committed family of staff, volunteers, and donors that she works with that make the village possible every year. Give Kids the World has been in existence since 1992, and Pamela has led it since 1995, building off of the legacy of Henry Landwirth. So her background is steep. She was with Disney for 16 years. She was in the resort and operations and human resources development and project planning areas. Under her guidance, the village has doubled in size. The number of villas has grown. New venues and attractions have been added to the village, and the number of families that attend and children who come has grown tremendously. Pamela, she really dedicates herself to making sure that the critically ill children and their families really have their dreams fulfilled, and that's a wonderful purpose. Other thing is, she's an author of a book. If you haven't read it, you should get it, called On Purpose. And she's always inspiring hope, and certainly this book will do that when you read it. And if you haven't seen it, you should get a copy. So with that short introduction, I want to say hello to Pamela. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fabulous. Thank you.
You are fabulous. Look at you. You're green and you're red and your clock, everything. You look great this morning.
I don't want you to be the only one that's for fun, okay? I gotta.
There we go. We got it in.
Okay, our job here is finished.
Yeah, okay. Talk to you later. So PM, why don't you, I've given a little bit of the technical kind of aspects, but if you don't mind, give us a little, before we dive in a little bit to the topic of Give Kids the World Village and kind of the program and what you've experienced and where you're going and what you see. Give the viewers and the listeners a little more insight into your background or the village, however you want to start it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I've just been blessed. I'm just going to say that we have been the village. Give Kids World was founded in 1986.
86.
So yeah, 86. So we're getting ready on March 7th to celebrate our 35th anniversary,
right,
which is amazing. The village itself opened 3 years later in 1989. And
Gotcha.
Since that time, we've served 176,000 families. So, I've been blessed, I think, with 2 jobs in my entire life. One, working for the best for-profit company, I think, and now for the best nonprofit. And when I look back at my career at Disney, only thinking I was going to be there for a few months because I was, going to be a lawyer and go out and save the world, and ended up falling in love with Disney. And all of my experiences there are, what prepared me for being at the Village. It's just been a wonderful marriage of the two.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. And I would imagine that the training you received at Disney, not knowing where you'd be sitting in 2021, is just been a solid foundation that's just had to help you grow. And
oh my goodness, it was incredible. I started in resorts. Again, my very first job started in resorts, and it was wonderful. And then got the opportunity to go to casting for a couple of years. So got to see that side of it and do the interviewing and help teach traditions, and got involved before it was the Disney Institute, but was able to teach things like the Disney approach to people management and quality service. And then, of course, was on all the pre-opening task forces for all the hotels, and then spent 7 months over in Paris for the opening of
did you?
Disneyland Paris. So I mean,
man.
It was just a wealth of experience over 16 years, and learning from the best. And then so all of those experiences, running a hotel, and knowing the casting and the human resources side, and the training and development, international experience, all of those things just made it, perfect for coming into this role.
Yeah, it was amazing. What a stepping stone.
Exactly.
I can imagine people who would love to have that kind of foundation to go forward in their
right.
In their
And that, and being married to the founder of Give Kids the World, it was kind of like, the joke was he married me to be a successor, right? Because it was like, whoa, where am I ever going to find somebody with all of that?
That's great. Well, I know a lot of the viewers and listeners today, they do know you. We get to be in Orlando every year. We get to see you speak to our audiences about Give Kids the World. But I think it would be helpful if you just gave us a little synopsis of how Give Kids the World Village works, and how the program and the families are chosen. Give us a little more detail and insight, because when you're up on the stage at the, whatever we call it now, the What's New Theater, you only have about 2 minutes. So
yeah, it's hard to
give us a little insight into that, because it is such a wonderful story.
Sure. Yeah. Again, we're getting ready to celebrate our 35th anniversary. And I think it goes back again to Henry. So most people know Henry's background. He was born in Europe, born in Belgium, to a Jewish family. Of course, he and his family were Jewish. Unfortunately, moved to Poland right before the outbreak of World War II. Yeah. And so he and his twin sister Margot spent 5 years in concentration camps from the ages of 13 to 18. Lost his entire family over there. And so he and his twin sister were the only ones that made it out. And he came here, and through a lot of serendipitous moments and experiences, he became the general manager of the hotel where all of the astronauts stayed, the Starlight Motel.
Oh, really? Yeah.
You remember that, Cocoa Beach?
Sure. Yeah, from the
so,
movie.
I mean, again, when you talk about how everything just happens for a reason. And so he became friends with all the original astronauts and Walter Cronkite, and drew the attention of the founder of Holiday Inns. And so through a series of events, he, opened the very first Holiday Inn right outside of the gates of Disney.
Yes.
And was had that hotel. So the wish granting organizations, when they would identify a child whose wish was to come to Disney, they would often call his hotel and say, hey, if we make all the other arrangements, would you put the family up for free? And of course, because he always felt like his childhood had been taken away from him because he spent those in concentration camps, he always had this affinity for making life better for children. And he would always say yes. And then one day his manager told him that a reservation had been canceled. It was for a little girl named Amy. She was from Virginia, and she'd been battling leukemia, and unfortunately she passed away. And so what I always like to say is he could have done one of two things. He could have said, oh, that's too bad, we'll take care of the next family. But it's all about that curiosity, right? Sure. One of the cornerstones of the Village is he started asking why, how could that have happened? And what he found was it was taking about 2 to 3 months for all of the wish granting organizations to make all the arrangements. And he said, well, that's kind of crazy. Let's streamline that. And he started Give Kids the World in the storeroom of that Holiday Inn with himself and one employee. And literally were able to bring children in less than 24 hours if need be, because streamlined the whole process. And of course, Disney and SeaWorld were our founding partners. He immediately that day hopped in the car and went over to visit Diana Morgan and Dick Nunes and said, hey, how do we make it stop? And having been at Disney, I know that it's very difficult sometimes to get things accomplished and answers, in weeks, much less a day, but they both signed on immediately, hopped in a car, went to visit Bob Galt, who at the time was at SeaWorld, and they both just signed on immediately. And that was the beginning of Give Kids the World. And so what we do is we serve children from around the world who have a critical illness who share one wish, and that's to come to Central Florida and experience all the magic. And half of all children when given that opportunity, it's to come here. So it's amazing. We started with 8 villas back in 1989, and we're now at 166 and growing.
Take us a little deeper. Talk to the audience a little bit about the theming and the attractions. And I mean, we know Disney's Mickey Mouse, we know Universal, we know SeaWorld's theming, we know Six Flags, we know Cedar Fair's theming. Tell us how you created and what Henry's vision was for the theming and how that would grow and be cohesive and understood and enjoyed by the families.
And that's why I'm so taken by the I'm for Fun, because it's all about childlike wonder. It's nothing like going to a theme park and seeing it through a child's eyes. And that's what the Village is. It's this whimsical resort that looks like it's a giant Candyland game. And it's everything we do is through a child's eyes. And that's what kind of keeps you grounded and keeps it exciting and wonderful and fresh. And that's what's so important, I think, is, what if you were a child, what would you think about this? And so that's where really the theming comes in. And we've been so blessed to have some of the most wonderful partners that are all IAAPA that have helped us, and I always draw I think the scenario that we're so closely aligned. We are a mini theme. We're like a family entertainment center.
Absolutely.
We have 4 attractions. We have attractions. We've got accommodations, and the theme park industry, and I've been so blessed to be part of that. You want to create that perfect guest experience because you want your guests to keep coming back over and over again. But we want to create that perfect guest experience because we get one shot. We don't get a do-over. And I was again blessed to work with Disney. And when you talk about do-overs, I mean, if somebody perceives that their experience wasn't great at a park or a resort at Disney, I mean, they can pull out all the stops and really go above them. We don't get to do that. We get one chance. And that's why it's all about how do we make this as perfect as possible. So we're trying to cram a lifetime experiences into 1 week for these kids and families and take them out of that world where it's doctor visits and hospital visits and people staring at them and asking awkward questions. We just want them to feel normal and feel like, what's it like to be a kid again? So we celebrate Halloween every Monday. So the kids go, trick-or-treating, and we do face painting and have costumes, and we go through 9 tons of candy a year. We celebrate Christmas every Thursday night, year round. Santa Claus comes, we make it snow on the avenue. And of course, we have gifts for every child that night. We do a Village Idol program where the kids get up on stage and perform and other kids are the judges. The difference here is, of course, every child wins. We have the world's largest Candyland game. We do a pool party, a Pirates and Princess party. So every night there's something. Then we bring horses out so the kids can ride horses and horse-drawn carriage rides, and the characters come here so the kids don't have to wait in those long lines in the park. So it's just, what I like to say is imagine the happiest day in your life, right? Whether when you got married or you had your first child or whatever that was. And there was nothing that was going to bring you down that day, right? I mean, you're so excited. You feel like you could conquer the world. Well, imagine 7 days of that for a child. And they leave here going, oh my gosh, if this dream can come true, if this wish can come true, maybe I can get better. Maybe if I, refocus all of my efforts on getting better, and it brings the family together. And we're just so blessed that to have been partners with, IAAPA since 1994.
Well, I know Tom Sheehan, Jim Shea, Bill Alter, Roger Berry, they all work together with the motorcycles and the golf and the runs
and the
right, that help fund you. And Pam, how one of the reasons I really wanted you to join us on the podcast was so listeners could hear too how the families are, we've heard how they enjoy it, and we
Mhm.
understand that. How are they selected? What's the process that goes through? Because I'm sure there's not enough capacity to be able to handle all of the situations that come to your doorstep.
Well, we made a promise back in 1986 that we would never turn down a child, and we haven't. So,
Wow.
a couple of things I'll get to the answer, but one is, so if we're full, which many of the times pre-pandemic we would place
Mhm.
families in off-property hotels, so that if that was the only time they could come, we got them down here and they could come experience the village during the day, but they just couldn't stay here. So we've never, in now almost 35 years, turned down a child.
Wow, that's
We don't
wonderful.
get involved, fortunately, in the selection process. That's up to the wish granting organizations, but there's only three criteria that allows a child to come here. One is they have to be between the ages of 3 and 18.
Hmm.
They have to have an illness that is considered a critical illness, and there is a long list of what those are, and it's a universally agreed upon list of illnesses. And then
Right.
the doctor has to sign a form that says they're able to travel, and that's really it. The challenge is that, so we normally now will do 8,000 families a year, but we know that there's roughly 28 to 30,000 children diagnosed every year in the United States alone with a critical illness. And we
Yeah.
do know as well that about half of those, if they were given the opportunity to have their wish, it would be to come here. Now that's just in the US, and we get families from 76 countries around the world. So there's a lot of reasons, whether it's an awareness or um, we just want to get, and so podcasts like this and things help us get that message out there. If you know of a child, please help us get to that child, because it is life altering. It
Yeah,
is an incredible
absolutely.
experience. And we've got
And
some.
I can't imagine the impact it has on the families too. It has to be
Oh,
something that just has to raise them up to a level that they probably haven't been at in a long time.
well, I mean, it gives them hope. And I think hope
Yeah.
is the most precious gift you can give another human being, because once you take away hope, what's left, right? And so that's what this whole experience is. Our tagline is creating the happiness that inspires hope. And it's getting all of those positive feelings going, like, wow, yeah, this is, and we do know, we don't know the fate of every child that leaves here. And I'm sure if you've heard me talk about Princess Alyssa from the stage
I have.
before,
I
a
have.
little girl who was 3 years old on hospice care, and wasn't expected possibly even to survive the wish, been battling, Wilm's tumor. And she went back
Yes.
and told her doctor at 3 years old, if you want to make kids well, don't give them shots anymore. Send them to Give Kids the World. It's magic medicine. I've been blessed to
And
go to her high school graduation, her college graduation, and she will say to this day, and I will tell you, a lot of times when you bring these kids up on stage and you see them, you go, yeah, is that really, I mean, are they just saying that because they're grateful? And I'll share with you, when I went to her high school graduation in a small town in Wisconsin, and I didn't tell anybody was coming because, again, I wasn't sure about my travel plans and whether it was going to happen. And so I get there and I drive, a couple hours, and I go, okay, I have to use the ladies' room. So it was an outside graduation. So I said, let me just run into the gym and use the ladies' room real quick. Well, I walk into the gym into a sea of caps and gowns. And this young woman I'd never laid eyes on before came running up to me, threw her arms around me, and said, thank you for saving my best friend's life. And that was Alyssa. And I'd never met her. So that she believes that to her core. Now we'd love to think that every child has that same fate, has that same happy ending. But,
yeah,
we
doesn't
also
happen.
know that
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're giving families some wonderful memories. So they can not only think back to all the times they had to drive them to doctor visits or medical treatments, but they can think about the times that they shared as a family. And it strengthens those bonds.
Well, I know, having been to your facility many times and visited, I know how wonderful it is. I also know that your job is like the mayor of a city.
Mhm.
You have your own food and beverage, you have your own security, you have your own
Right.
water, you have your own power, you have everything that you have to run. And from a logistical standpoint, whether it's Disney World or Give Kids the World
Mhm.
village, uh, it's an amazing job. How many families and people during a peak period would you have on site during a day or a week? How many would be there that you're managing?
Right. So normally in normal times, we have 166 villas
Mhm.
that are full usually. And
Yeah.
each family has, roughly 5 people in a family on average, 5 people. So you've got that. In our peak, we also had over 200 staff members that were here. But the backbone of the village is our volunteers. We have 18,000 active volunteers, and we fill roughly 1,800 volunteer shifts a week. So, on any given day, we can have, 1,000 people here, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. From volunteers to staff to families, it's
Yeah.
it
It's a
is a
city.
little mini city,
Yeah, it is a city. You are a mayor.
or at least a town. Maybe not a city, but a
Yeah.
town.
Hey, wait a minute. It takes a village.
It takes a village. It sure does.
I've got a question that just came in. I'm going to
Sure.
be jumping around a little bit and said,
Absolutely.
Miss Landwirth, does your program, we understand it's US based, does it reach out internationally? Are other countries involved? And tell us about other countries if they are involved in these wish vacations.
Sure. Yeah, right now we get families from 76 countries around the world. Not every year do all 76 send them. But again, wherever there's a wish granting partner, or we've had some through IAAPA members where maybe there might be a country that doesn't have a wish granting organization, but we've worked through corporations or IAAPA members to help get those families here. So we would love to have all countries represented.
Yeah. And do they contact you, or do you how is that contact made?
Normally, what will happen is that through a wish grant, we don't accept families directly because we can't, get the doctor to sign those forms. We're
Sure.
only based right here in Orlando, so we we rely on those wish granting partners to get that information for us. So again, a lot of times, if they will call us, if they get to us directly, then what we'll do is we'll say, "Hey, we'd love to serve you, but contact this organization in your area." So if there's a country that doesn't have a wish granting organization, we will find a participating wish granting organization that will help get that family here.
So you have collaboration with other organizations and
yeah, we work with about 200
pathways.
chapters of wish granting organizations around the world.
200.
200 different chapters.
Here's another one, if you don't mind. It said, Miss Landwirth, I'm sure Give Kids the World has been, let me wipe my eyes here a second. I'm sure Give Kids World has been impacted by COVID like the rest of our industry. There have been so many businesses and programs in our community that are also affected. Can you tell us what changes you've had to make at the village or to the programs to ensure the safety of everyone?
Wow. Yep.
That's
certainly
Susan.
Can. I'm sorry.
That was Susan.
Okay. Yeah. And again, there's kind of probably 3 prongs there. So if I get too windy, let me know and cut me off. But it's impacted us greatly. So we had to close our doors on March 18th last year. First and foremost, because all of the parks were closing. And so
did you all close basically simultaneously? I remember March was
right. Yeah, it was March 18th that we said goodbye to our last guest. And then we were able to keep our staff whole because, we recognize even though we're a nonprofit, we are a business and we have to run like a business. So we've made wonderful business decisions over the course of the years that allowed us to keep our staff whole. And then we got a PPP loan. But unfortunately, at the end of June, we had to lay off 84% of our staff. So we went from a staff of 204 down to 27, wow. Which was probably the most heart-wrenching and heartbreaking days in my life when I had to say goodbye to folks who'd been here, some of them 30 years, right? We did everything we could. And then, because originally, I think as we all thought, this could last a couple weeks, maybe a few months, and we'll be back up to normal in the summer. And it was, as it kept dragging on, it was, wow. Yeah. So I actually moved into the village. And it was me and 2 security guards round the clock that were the only ones here. So it was probably 4 heartbreaking months that you're used to walking up and down the avenue and seeing kids with ice cream cones for breakfast and stuff like that. And to go just silence was deafening. So around in July, we're going, okay, one of my favorite quotes, I think it's been attributed to many, Abraham Lincoln, but the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I'm a big football fan. And I said, talking
Go
to
Dogs.
folks on our staff, we can just be on the defense or we can be on the offense.
Yeah.
And how are we going to handle this? Because it looks like it's going to be a lot longer than we originally anticipated. So we started throwing out ideas about, okay, what can we do during this closure? So we did things like we went through and said, okay, we have a lot of food stockpiled because we were expecting to serve families. So we donated all that to the Second Harvest Food Bank. I think it was like 7 tons of food. And we went through it. Our whole goal was, let's get show ready. So when show ready, both on stage and backstage. So we did this huge cleaning inside and out. And we started reaching out to folks like Canine Companions. Hey, we've got this beautiful facility. Is there any way that you can use it? The biggest thing is what we recognize, and we can talk a little bit about, is how we pivoted and said, okay, we've got this beautiful facility. How can we generate awareness and revenue? Because we are going to open. We know we're going to reopen. Sure. And that's where Night of a Million Lights came from. And because we're throwing out, okay, what can we do? And we thought, okay, well, one of our development managers said, well, what if we put lights up on the avenue? And maybe folks would want to come and see the lights on our avenue, Christmas lights, holiday lights. Everybody's going to need a little bit. We started talking about this in July, and then it just kind of grew and grew. So I gave the green light in July to do this. Well, let me tell you, it went from, okay, well, now let's do this and let's do that. And then it was a phone call to Jeff Volley, who at the time was the chairman of our board, but the president. I said, hey, Jeff, I understand you've got some hotels that aren't going to open. And you're not going to do all of your holiday things like you normally do. Do you happen to have any leftover lights that we might borrow? So Disney donated 3.3 million lights.
3.3
million lights. And it was
I knew
wow,
it was a large number.
Candy factory. What can we do with 3.3 million lights? And so then we're just like, wow. So long story short, or even longer, we decorated 45 villas. And you, Dennis, know that even though we are a nonprofit and we rely heavily on corporate donors and things like that, we don't allow any signage in the village because we don't want it to appear like charity.
That's
so
right.
We went out to our corporate
no commercialism.
Said, hey, this is your opportunity. If you want to adopt a villa, mind you, for free, we didn't charge them, and said, if you want to decorate a villa and get your name out. And so we thought, well, maybe we'll get 20 or 30,000 people who will want to come see this show. And we had to cut it off at 45 because we were just running out of time and thought we might be running out of lights. Well, I'm going to tell you, it was the most wildly successful event. Over 90,000 people came through the village in 52 nights. We were sold out.
How many people were you averaging on it? How many days did it run? Nights did it run?
52 nights. And we were averaging about 19. We capped it at around under 2,000. Now, let me just share because I know we want to get back into the protocols and those things too, which we were extremely, and I'll show you how we made it safe.
Question on that came in.
Yeah, because we do. Yeah. There are a lot of things I want to share with what we're doing for safety and things like that. But, so we had IEs from Disney come out and help us. We sat through training with the VP of safety for Disney, and they were just tremendously helpful. But we know that we could have doubled the capacity, but we didn't want to be greedy. We wanted to be safe. So we could have put through a lot more people if we really wanted to, but we just, wanted to be very safe. So again, when we go back to that, how do you predict is to create the future. We knew that we were going to reopen. So we reached out not only to safety through our theme park friends, but through Nemours Children's Hospital. And we worked with 3 infectious disease pediatricians at Nemours early on and said, okay, we know eventually we're going to reopen. What's it going to take? What do we have to do? And we've been so stringent about those. So if you come on property, your temperature is taken. If it's over, 100.4, we don't allow you on property. Everybody has to wear a mask. We ask, 2 questions of everybody every morning. I have to answer the same 2 questions because I finally did move back home. So I'm not living at the village anymore.
Yeah.
And it boils down to wearing a mask, social distancing, hand sanitizer, and hand washing. And we've been extremely blessed. And So we had this doctor, Dr. Alexander, and I can send you a link that you can share with your listeners if you want.
We'll put that in our news as well.
Absolutely. It's the lead infectious disease pediatrician at Nemours Children's Hospital here. And he went on saying how safe the theme park industry is. And of course, really relying on the ones that are here local because of the procedures and policies that they put in, and how safe he feels that Give Kids the World is. And it's just such a testament to saying, hey, if you just do these simple things, we can all get through this.
Well, you know, and I know, because we live the industry every day, that our industry has risen above everyone else. I really believe terms of instituting safety practices and all the things you just talked about. And we watch the press, and we put, as you know, a newsletter out every day. And to my knowledge, there have been no tiebacks to any theme parks as it relates to COVID situations. They haven't caught it at theme parks. I don't know where they get it. I don't know where it comes from, but we have done an amazing job as an industry. And certainly, you know, and I think you would agree that Disney set the bar with this back at Shanghai when they closed first and carried it forward, and the other companies, Universal, SeaWorld, all the operators.
Oh, amazing. I feel much safer there than going to a Publix. I mean, I still use Instacart because I just don't think that, you know, but I have no qualms at all about going to any of the theme parks because they really do set the bar, and they set it high. It's not like a minimum bar. It is like, you just feel so safe when you go there, and they don't, it's not, and Disney's, you know, have courtesy, all the parks, they really care about courtesy, but they draw the line, and they go, you either wear a mask or, you know, you can leave. And that's kind of the standpoint that we have to take. It's nope, you know, and we got a lot of pushback during those 90,000. We were very blessed because it's the first time we've ever opened the gates of the village, invited people in that we don't know. We've never just opened up the gates and we're going, okay, how's this going to work? And we got a lot of pushback.
One of the questions, Pam, that speaks to what you're saying right now is there's two parts to it. It says, I'll give you both questions and you can answer them in the order you like. It said, ask Miss Landwirth, what changes does she think are here to stay? Number one. And number two, based on what we've just heard, we assume that this will be a program that will carry forward annually?
You know, you mean the Night of a Million Lights?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. A couple things. So one thing that has changed. So when we went through all that protocol and the discussions with the doctors, they only really had one recommendation for us that we had entertained before, but had not really given it a lot of serious consideration. They just said, because now we just operate like a regular, even though all of the families stay for 7 days, 6 nights. People arrive Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? It was just like a traditional resort. They recommended that we go with more of a, I guess, for lack of better words, a cruise ship mentality where everybody arrives on the same day and departs on the same day. So we are going to reopen on Sunday, and I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, we are. We're coming to that.
We are going to do that. We're going to have everybody arrive on a Sunday and everybody check out on a Saturday. That may be one of those things that, hey, this works pretty well. That may be a change that we keep. You know, we don't know because we really haven't tried it yet. Yeah. Other than that, yes, all of the safety protocols, the mask wearing, as long as COVID-19 is in our dialect and it's present, we're going to keep those same safety protocols. The question about will Night of a Million Lights actually happen again? There were just so many, like the stars aligned, right? We were closed. Unfortunately for the parks, but blessed for us was they weren't doing all of their nighttime activities, right? So there was not that much to do here. Right. And then sadly, the same people that normally did the light shows and things like that for Disney were on furlough. And so we were able to tap into them because they had volunteered with us before. So it was those folks that we relied on. Now, what we're already planning is to do something. We've got 2 scenarios that we're looking at. One is if we're still closed in December or running a very small operation because the number of families aren't there. We're looking at, yes, we can do it again, but we would never, the families come first. So we would never want to impact the family experience.
Sure.
But if we're looking at a scenario where we're at limited occupancy, we do have one area of the village where we might look at doing something where we light up this one area and it's more of a show where you have music and lights and things like that. So it's more, I guess, in that traditional Osborne lights kind of theme. So we're not ruling it out, but we're just, again, we're pivoting. I think that's the thing is you've got to be nimble. We're a business, right? And we've just got to react to the situation and be able to react quickly, but with planning. And so we're not ruling it out. We're planning that it will happen so that we can be prepared, but we're never going to put fundraising over families.
Absolutely.
I don't think we have the ability to be completely filled this Christmas, then we wouldn't do it. But the likelihood of that right now, it's not looking like that's going to happen because one of our largest wish granting partners has already said they're not going to allow any air travel until 2022. Wow. Well, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And that's a huge expense. We understand.
Yeah, right, right.
Couple of things. First of all, I think what you've done in adjusting and calling the audibles, football, go dogs,
go dogs,
football fan that you are. I think it's amazing what you've done. And I think it's amazing what our industry has done on their own, individually. Absolutely. And what we've all learned and has been passed on from park operation to park operation to from family entertainment centers and location-based entertainment centers, water parks, everything that we've learned we're a wonderful industry in that we share this type of information.
It's a family. We're a family. Industry that's truly a family.
Yeah, exactly.
And, of course there's competition, but it's friendly. I mean, it's just amazing how this whole industry, and it's not just the parks, which are huge to us, but it's the manufacturers and suppliers. It's, Bob Space Racers, who donated a whack-a-mole for us throughout Night of a Million Lights, right? Yeah. That raised close to $30,000 for us just because we just charged a nominal fee to play whack-a-mole. And,
yeah, exactly.
And then the ones who adopted a villa and got their name out there, and the help that we got in setting up our safety protocols. We could rely on all three parks to do that. They were all represented here. They all adopted a venue here and put their name out there. But manufacturing, the list could go on. And then the rides, we were able to open up the rides and be very inclusive because of our wonderful friends at Zamperla who donated, wheelchair accessible attractions for us.
Now that's fabulous.
So we couldn't exist without our IAAPA friends.
No, and I know that the members of IAAPA have, when Give Kids the World came to us, and I think it was back around 95, wasn't it?
94. Ted Kroll was the
Ted Kroll, yeah.
Remember Ted Kroll?
Oh, I remember Ted. Yeah, he was one of my favorites. That was the
year that we introduced the World Passport for Kids. Was the very first.
I remember that. Yeah. Remember that well, and everybody just embraced it enormously. When you told us what it was about, it was we had been looking as an industry for something to support. And it was like this was just dropped down from heaven. And when it came in, it was just, okay, that's a pretty good idea. Let's do that.
Well, it's the reason we exist, because you mentioned it so beautifully at the beginning, is you're all about creating fun. And creating a world within a world where you can just put all that other stuff that you were talking about that's happening out there in the world. And people need a break from that. It's not like you bury your head in the sand and pretend like all of those issues aren't real, but you need a break. And that's what the theme park industry does. It gives families a break to go, it's not all that bad. We've got this. Let's find a little way to put I'm for fun and a little bit of joy. And a little bit of happiness and hope in people's lives. And that's what the entire industry is all about.
Well, as you know, I have a special needs grandchild. My wife and I started a special needs school 16 years ago, and hundreds of young people with neuromuscular issues have gone through our school. When Dayton, our grandson, was about 3, we took him to Disney, and we did the cruise and the park tour. And I'll never forget Donna and I and Dayton. We were sitting at the breakfast table, and he loves Mickey Mouse today. He wakes up with Mickey Mouse. He's
I love it.
18, and he goes to bed with Mickey Mouse, and he watches me. He just loves Mickey, and he did before. And at 3 years old, Mickey Mouse came up to the table, and Dayton turned and looked at him and he looked at me, and he has challenges, mental challenges. And I said to Donna, I don't care what this costs. That was worth it.
Worth it. It absolutely is. It's you can't put a price tag on that. You absolutely
That
can't.
look.
See these kids who
Yeah.
that's what they want. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what this industry means. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so much joy. And the beauty of the World Passport program is that for all of these families that come, then they can go out, and it like extends it for a year. So they can visit any participating park for free. And the outpouring of love and support. And so many times we'll get notes back that it's so great, because people think, okay, well, why do we support that? Because it's just in Florida. It's a Florida charity. No, it's not. And when we support children from those small communities, wherever there's a small FEC or a huge theme park, we get families from there. So you're supporting the people in your area. And that's what the World Passport has done. It's go, oh, wow, we didn't realize all of these families from our area, have this need. And I think what it does is, it's about that purpose. And, you talked about the book early on, but it's how do you got to capture your employees' hearts. And that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it, is you want to get them engaged. And the best way to do it is through capturing their hearts.
All right, here comes some more questions. This hour always goes so fast.
Oh my stars! Yeah, wow. Okay.
we've got a few questions here that we want to ask. This comes. Sure. Oh, gee whiz! I wonder who this is. Do you know Chloe?
Oh, very well. Hey, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe. She said, Pam, you are the epitome of happiness and inspiring hope. This reopening was the best news to read back in December. Congratulations to you. She said, what all went into making that to be possible again? Well, you talked a little bit about that earlier, but we know in the theme park industry, I always tell the media, we're a barge on the river. When we turn off the engines, we still go 5 to 7 miles before it stops. Right. And when we start up again, it's not like a motorcycle doing a wheelie and taking off. It takes a while.
Don't tell Jim Shea that, because he loves motorcycles.
yeah. He's too old to do a wheelie. We know Jim. But maybe you could just maybe give her a little response to that. It's I would imagine it's all of your team planning, coming together, and saying, let's pull the ripcord. We've got to jump. We've got to go.
Well, I think what it is, it's all about, and it's the theme parks too, safety is our always number one priority.
Sure.
And, safety, courtesy, show efficiency, and those are our operating principles, that safety vastly outweighs whatever is second. So that was the first thing. Can we do this safely? Can we do it safely, not only for our guests, but for our staff? And when you think about 1,800 volunteers, we had to make sure that it was going to be safe. And that's why we spent several months poring over CDC guidelines, reaching out to our theme park friends here locally. What are you doing? How can we be safe? We went over and again sat through a class with Katie Kelly, who's the VP of Safety Worldwide for Disney. And then we went over and walked Disney parks, and then they came and walked ours. And that was immeasurable help. And their IEs came over. How many people can we safely do this? What other changes do we need to make? How does food service change? Because, we've had buffets before. Well, we can't do buffets. We got to go to family dining. So safety was the number one driver. When we felt like we could be safe, that's when we turned the key and said, okay, yes. Then secondly, we're not going to open it up. We're not going to go to 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. We're going to go to 0 to 60 probably in a year. So we're going to start very slow. This first week when we open in September, we're going to have 5 families.
5.
So we're going to have 5 families. And we made a commitment not only to ourselves, but to our theme park friends, because we didn't want to inundate them either. So we're going, okay, for the first probably 6 months, we're not going to do more than 25 to 30 families max, because we just want to test all of our logic and see. And because we never want to disappoint a child again. I mean, can you imagine last year, 6,000 wishes just for Give Kids the World were postponed. Now imagine, you know what it's like when you're getting ready to do something, you're so excited, we're going on vacation, and then the last minute you have to go.
Sure.
And so for these kids, it was very difficult because they're going, wait a minute, I don't understand. I've got leukemia, I've got a tumor, I've got this, and the world doesn't come to a stop. Why is the world coming to a stop because of a virus? Somebody has the flu. So in their minds, it's just like, what? Why? And so we never want to disappoint them again. So we want to start very slow, reaching out to some of our smaller wish granting partners. Let's just get our sea legs back. So it's almost going to be 10 months to the day that we were closed, that we reopened.
10 months to the day.
Yeah, because it was March 18th and we're opening on January 17th.
17th, yeah.
So almost 10 months to the day.
Who would have thought?
And we feel like we've got it under control, but we're going to be monitoring it very carefully.
Yeah.
And if things go smoothly, then we'll just keep growing. But it's not all in. It's just we're going to take care of the families one-on-one, and they're going to have the same wonderful experience, whether there's 5 families here, 1 family, or 100 families.
Well, here's another question, Pamela. It says, what programmatic changes, not operational, but programmatic changes are on the horizon in terms of what's being planned for the village, for the experience and future growth? And that's from Phil.
Okay, great.
Maybe you know Phil. I'm not sure.
Hey, Phil. I know a lot of Phil, but whoever you are, I love you.
Yeah.
So again, not from a programmatic, because we are going to have to look at, social distancing, try to do is, we're blessed to be in Florida, so we can do a lot more outside, where normally we do a lot of things inside. So we're looking at meals outside and entertainment outside and those kinds of things. But going forward, we're not going to stop. Most of you who've been to the village knew that we had this huge pirate ship that had seen better days. And so we leveled that, and we're rebuilding the pirate ship, which should be back up in March. So we're very excited about that. So part of that other thing, when we were getting show ready on stage and backstage, because of really good business decisions, we said, hey, we're closed. What better time to go back in and refurbish villas and repave all of the roads and things like that. So again, we focused on getting show ready. So we're going to continue rehabbing all of our villas operationally. And then one thing I'm really excited about, we're taking one of our existing facilities and we're going to turn it into Mayor Clayton's Wonderland. And it's going to be an interactive area, again, reaching out to, those STEM, science and technology and all of those things. Is how do we get people more engaged and kids, give them hands-on experiences and activities, maybe with 3D machines. And I'm talking out of my league, but I know we've got this whole beautiful plan put together. So hopefully we're going to start going out and presenting that to get some industry support for that, and some dollars so that we can have that new activity for the kids. We're always looking at refreshing and trying to stay relevant, because the same things that excite a 3-year-old certainly don't excite a 14-year-old, right? So we're always our 15 or 16-year-old. So one of the things that we introduced right before we had to close was we introduced a new program on Saturday nights. It was prom, because we realized that many of these children won't get to experience a prom. And so we only got about 3 or 4. It was called Stellar's Starry Night Ball. So it's always just kind of retooling and looking at it, again, childlike wonder, looking at it through a child's eyes. What would they love?
Pam, how do I've read in the materials that we've researched, and I know this from you and talking to people, but 90 cents of every dollar goes towards the experience. How do you achieve that? I mean, I think you ought to go and get back in the for-profit and show us.
It's operating like a business, right? It's making good business decisions. I think, there were so many nonprofits that went under because of COVID, because there's a lot of wonderful nonprofits out there, and people have a great heart and they believe in the mission. But let's face it, it is a business. So one of the hardest things to do is lay off staff. But what's in the best business decision so that we have to look at our long-term sustainability as well, right? So those are the kinds of things that have just helped us be very successful, and we're going to rely on those. And yes, so normally it's 92.7 cents of every dollar spent goes directly to the mission. This year, because we haven't had the number of families, it will be 90 cents, but still, that's pretty amazing because you're considered good at 65 cents of every dollar spent by the Better Business Bureau.
Here's another question. It's a good one.
Good.
It said, and this is from Lisa.
Hi,
and
Lisa.
She said, "Hi, Pam, what do you think attraction operators in our industry can learn from Give Kids the World with regard to service and guest excellence? Has the attraction industry picked up any ideas for operations from Give Kids the World?"
Wow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know we
Has it
certainly
gone
picked
that
up
way?
a lot from them.
Sure.
But I think if there's anything, is to see a child. And I will never forget the first time that we had, it was our Lori's Magical Flight. It was the first bigger attraction that Zem Perla gave to us that was retrofitted for children. Two ways. One, it's for kids who don't have use of their legs, because for those of you who don't know, it's a bike ride where you pedal and you go up in the air and you go around. Right. Well, they made several of the seats where you could use your arms if you didn't have use for your legs, but also the opportunity for a wheelchair to be on this ride so an adult could sit by. And I will never forget that first moment when a child was wheeled on there and the mom was crying tears of joy because they'd never seen their child. Yeah. And I think the only thing that ride operators and those attractions is don't be a grown-up, be a child. Never lose childlike wonder and remember the first time you ever got on a roller coaster or a ride.
Absolutely.
Never lose that feeling.
Yeah.
Never lose that. And that's the one thing that I hope that those folks, if that answers that question, Lisa, it's like never lose that feeling of what it's like for a child to experience. And yeah, I know what it's like. I worked many attractions where it's next and it's like, 100,000 people or 50,000 people. But exactly. Yeah. But each one of those, you're making a difference in their life in such a tremendous way. They've saved money. This is maybe their one time that they're going to be able to get on that attraction. Enjoy it with them and just treasure that moment.
Well, Pam, we have a lot more questions, but not enough time. Okay.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
We got a long way to go and a short time to
get there.
Okay. But let me ask you this.
Sure.
This is from Caroline. She said, in late 2019, you released your book called On Purpose, How Engagement Drives Success. In it, you talk about how purpose matters and how helping others, leading with passion and inspiring around you. She said, are things that, and things that really matter. She said, what really led you to write this book?
I always had this toy with this idea of writing a book, but it was going to be, toy with, hey, well, the 10 things I've learned from giving kids the world. And then I thought about it, and if the whole purpose of the book, because all of the money, anything goes directly back to Give Kids the World. It's all to, raise money and awareness for the village. It's like, who's going to read a book about Give Kids the World? It's only going to be people in our sphere. So I started thinking it's got to be a business. I mean, when I went back, I didn't get a master's in nonprofit management. I went and got my MBA again, because you got to have that mindset. So I thought, okay, what is going to resonate with business leaders? So I started reaching out to our board members and theme park friends and said, what's the number one thing that keeps you awake at night? And I thought I'd probably get 30 or 40 different responses. And I'd go, okay, well, that would make sense. I mean, it was all about employee engagement. And I'm going, wow, that's not just for profits, that's for nonprofits too. You've got to have engaged employees. And when you look at the studies that go, what happens when, and the alarming numbers of over half of the population employees are not engaged. And then about 17%, not only are they not engaged, they're actively disengaged, which means they're sitting, they're not doing good for you or your organization. And some of those things are so simple. And it's things like I learned it at the Disney, and things that we've been able to put in place here. And that's really what it was. I wanted something to speak to people and recognize that it is all about purpose. And one of my favorite quotes, I think I even have shared from when I've been up in IAAPA is, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away.
Right.
And I think
heard you say that.
exactly. And so how wonderful it would be if we as organizations can help people. And that's why I treasure Disney, because I think they helped me find gifts that I learned from my dad, and my upbringing was all about service. But they help you find the gifts, but then give you an opportunity to give those gifts away. And that's really how you engage your employees. And if we could all do that, it'd be wonderful.
Well, I'm going to have to stop you just for a second.
Okay, you're going to make me mute. That's really, I have to have a mute button right here.
My gosh, this has been one of the fastest hours I've ever hosted. I just want to say, in this time in our world, in our lives, in our country, we've never needed a more uplifting message, and you certainly delivered that today. And when I asked you to come on, I didn't realize exactly where the crosshairs were going to be on this date today, January 13th, my son's birthday, actually, in 2021, Austin. But you've certainly made, I know, a lot of our viewers smile and given a very uplifting. So I want to thank you very much. I would like to offer and invite you to, we publish every day, and we have for 23 years, the ITPS Daily News. It goes out to thousands of people around the world. It's the most read.
I read it.
Yeah, good. When I'm at IAAPA, I always get a kick out of the CEOs and all the guys and girls who come up to me and say, hey, the first thing we do in the morning is we get in the office, we get our cup of coffee or tea, we poke up the ITPS news, and we see what's going on in the world. And you do a great job. We would like to offer you from ITPS to be a part of that, and submit us some information that we will continue to run periodically, as often as you'd like, and any message that you'd like. And Sean Haas will reach out to you.
Perfect. Love it.
And he'll get that set up with you. So Pamela, thank you very much. You've been wonderful. Yeah. And I just want to say to all our visitors and guests and viewers out there today, I always like to end up with saying that if we don't have fun, how can we sell fun? That's what our industry's about. And I always say, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And we work in this great industry. We don't put smoke in the skies. We don't contaminate the streams. At the end of the day, what we really do is put smiles on people's faces and make memories. And you do that better than anyone.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you so much.
So thank you for joining us. Thank all of you for joining us. It's been a wonderful podcast. And Pamela, we'll be talking soon.
Look forward to it. Have fun.
Take care. Thank you.